Planning Board's regular December meeting, and first thing is there have been a few changes to the posted agenda. There is another extension resolution that we're going to have for one of our applicants. There is an executive session we'll be going into with our attorney, and there'll be another resolution at the end of the meeting that we'll be dealing with, but otherwise everything stands as posted. For two of the applications, Mr. Baker and Mr. Horstman, I'm going to be recusing myself since I'm the acting zoning enforcement officer for the town of Rhinebeck, and have dealt with both of those in a way that I'd want to make sure that there's no thought that there may be any prejudicial behavior on my part over that. So that's how that's going to go forward for those two. I'd like to have a motion to accept Art's meeting notes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Review and acceptance of the regular meeting minutes of November 20th, 2017. You all had a chance to read them?
Yes.
Any corrections, amendments?
None.
Nope.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And correspondence and announcements, I don't have anything. Does anyone else have anything?
Well, Michael, if you would admit your mistake of last August, the board could then deal with it in a resolution that I just prepared.
I think that's a
But I
fair
do
statement.
Which
have one
statement is it?
announcement.
Oh.
It's not really an announcement, just a sharing of information. And that's that a couple times this year, you know, we've hosted our own training sessions and invited the village, and it turns out that the village has been very happy with that, and the supervisor and the mayor have talked. And so it looks like we'll be continuing that in the new year, identifying topics that are really relevant to Rhinebeck Village and town to get the training hours in. So if you have suggestions as to topics that you think are particularly relevant to us, bring them forward, and because they're finding it's much better to be talking about real issues in front of us. So I think that was very good news.
Thank you.
I can explain that comment. Back in August of this year, I wanted to say August of last year, there was a request timely made by McCown for a time extension for satisfaction of conditions and/or requirements. The chair mistakenly believed that all conditions and requirements had been previously met, and therefore stated at the beginning of the meeting that that particular item didn't need to be considered at the meeting. As it turns out, all conditions and requirements had not been met. Therefore, I have just a quick resolution here, which basically retroactively extends the approval for the same period that it would have been issued. Okay. That simply reads, in consideration of a written request timely made and in error considered unnecessary by the chair, the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board hereby retroactively grants an extension for the satisfaction of conditions and requirements set forth within the Planning Board's approval resolution of February 21st, 2017, thus extending the end date for such satisfaction from August 21st, 2017 to February 21st, 2018.
Sounds about right. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? McCown's will be very happy. Thank you. Our first, well, we have another minute until we have our first public hearing, and that will be LXMI Property Holdings, LLC. Okay, for tonight's first public hearing, LXMI Property Holdings, LLC, 18 Haggerty Hill Road, special use permit and site plan approval. Continuation from July 17th, 2017 through November 20th, 2017 of combined public hearing on the reapplications of LXMI Property Holdings, LLC for special use permit and site plan review and approval under Town Code Chapter 125 zoning in the matter of the proposed construction of a 5-bedroom dwelling, installation of related site improvements, and establishment of a 1-bedroom detached accessory dwelling on a 15-acre parcel at 18 Haggerty Hill Road within the rural countryside RC5 district, being the subject of prior Dutchess County Health Department approval and classified as an unlisted action under seeker.
Michael, I'm recused.
Thank you. Edna is recusing herself from the review of this project. Mark, is there any comments you wanted to make or anything you wanted to add that? Okay. Any members of the planning board, any questions that they would like to raise on this? All right, I'll open it to members of the public who would like to speak. If you speak, please come up to the microphone and identify yourself.
I would like to speak, but I wouldn't like to speak right there at the microphone. Can I stay here?
The only reason we have it with a microphone is so that you get picked up on the...
Oh, no, I see that. It's just...
Can we bring them?
Can
we bring the microphone
Can we-
over?
Speak up again.
Can the microphone get over
bring
there?
the
Right in front row, 2
What are the
feet from
table
me.
mics?
Actually, maybe one of the table mics. Can we take one?
Intimidating.
Yeah. We'll do... Mark will take one of the table mics over. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you pick?
Yep. It's just a short one. My name is Margot Wilkenfeld, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of myself and my husband, and also Joseph Abate, who's my neighbour, and we live at 12 and 8 Haggerty Hill Road, respectively. All of us are Lot 1 owners from the same subdivision as LXMI. And, well, we have a question about whether the accessory dwelling meets the requirements of the zoning law. According to the law, it can't exceed 900 square feet. And since the building measures 30 by 30 feet, its main floor contains 900 square feet. So, you know, the document for the certificate of occupancy that was granted in error by the town, it also lists an area in the basement that is finished. And my understanding is this finished area has wallboard and lighting and heat, and so should be included in the square footage of the dwelling. And the town's records provide the following information. In the undated building application, which is number 15-15, LXMI state that they want to build a single-story structure with no basement. On the 4th of February 2015, permission was granted, but sometime or other a basement was added to the plans. And on the 16th of March the following year, the certificate of occupancy was issued for a detached accessory dwelling with partial, finished, full basement with wine cellar. And so I have a question about that, really. You know, is that kosher? Is that cool? Like, we're worried about that. So I have a copy of the building permit, which lists the 900 square feet and no basement, and of the CO, which also lists the finished area in the basement, if anyone's interested.
Okay. Had we had this presented before us before? Does the applicant have anything to say on this? I don't recall us having this before us previously.
It's a new issue.
It is a new issue.
No, we've asked it in letters and they've been overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing I can tell you about the basement is that there's no access from the main level of the house. There's access to this new exterior door, and it's, I don't know the percentage, but it's largely subterranean.
Plans look like
Okay.
half of it is
Also,
above
no
grade.
windows.
Mm-hmm. What is the height, what is under the New York State building permit considered habitable in terms of the height?
Is it not 8-foot ceilings?
The more than 50% of it is subterranean. There's no access from upstairs. There's no, everything is not even a window right at all. And it's basically a function of the grade. So the only reason that anything's above ground is because the grade falls off behind it, so.
But in terms of the height under there, I mean, people do have finished basements. It's under what's required for habitable space.
It's
Oh, the height in the.
Yes,
is it
the
at
height
least 7
in-
feet?
Full basement, yeah.
It's got 8-foot ceilings. I have
Okay,
written
so-
down that part of the plans.
So it is indeed sufficient height for considered habitable space.
Certainly sufficient height.
I
Okay.
believe play dates have gone on in the basement there, and there is something.
I thought, I wasn't privy to a meeting, but I do believe the applicant met with his former attorney and the representatives from the town and the town planning board attorney and hashed this issue out previously. And it was determined that there wasn't a violation regarding the basement, which allowed his application to proceed.
I have the copy of the zoning law from John Lyons, and it seems to me that if you can use that space as living space, that it should be counted as the top of the 900 square feet. It's not like
That's
a down
true.
cellar. It's, you know, it's a nice.
Well, without windows, it can't be occupied as any habitable space.
Well, if someone wanted to use it to say as a
Right, it doesn't have
Movie
the
theater.
secondary egress.
Gym, maybe, they could use it.
A recreation room?
It's used as a gym.
But you said it has access to grade on one side?
I have the grade.
From the exterior.
pictures, if anyone wants to see them.
So did we sign off, did the town sign off on this?
I don't
CO?
know.
I don't
Yes, CO's been
They're in
issued.
the house, so.
They're in the
they don't have
house, yeah.
CO, So
This is
if someone,
occupancy for it, but it's not clear really what it's for, and also, no one was really included on that variance.
So, yeah.
I mean, if they want to file a complaint, they can certainly file a complaint, but bringing it up at the planning board, it shouldn't have an impact on our pending application, because right now, it's just an allegation. We have a certificate of occupancy, and they have gone through this already a few times
No,
with
we've
officials from the
addressed
town.
these questions a few times, and they haven't been answered. If anyone would like to see, what's above grade and what's below grade, and how the space is chopped up, I have some
Okay.
printouts.
Thank you.
But I had to go heavily pregnant in 90-degree heat to the town hall to look at these plans, whereas I'm a neighbour and I should have received a copy of them with all the measurements that I could determine in the comfort of my own home without bouncing my stroller down 2 flights of steps on multiple occasions, trying to fathom what's going on with this project when I've been reachable for the last 6 to 9 months, trying to find out what's going on. And here I am, it's Hanukkah, my kids are doing dreidel and gelt at home, and it's a holiday and I'm here with a baby in the dark, and I just feel, I couldn't leave the little one, and I feel pissed off about it, to be honest. I know my feelings shouldn't come into it, but this is lacking information, and we did ask about it in the summer.
Okay, well, what we can do is, I want to go down and see tomorrow, the building inspector will be here, and I can see exactly what the CO was issued for.
I have to see it right here.
Oh,
She was reading from it.
hold on.
To tell you that I have it.
Gretchen, could you grab that from her?
That's the CO.
Fire that over here.
These are the grade drawings.
Okay.
One,
Okay.
that's two,
Is the attachment one?
that's three. There should be another one in this, and that's four.
Okay.
Because I did this in a rush.
No, this is good.
Those are heights of ceilings. This is another one, we don't like another one.
Okay. What,
This is how the space is carved up. Part of it is a wine cellar,
Yeah.
for wines, I suppose, that need to be kept at a certain temperature, and the other half is basement.
okay, I think the situation as I see it here is that there is a certificate of occupancy which lists as an accessory dwelling, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, with a partial finished basement with a wine cellar. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to go look at the plans for it and talk with the building inspector about exactly what the square footage is, because certainly the wine cellar would be considered habitable space.
I don't know what your rule is on number of stories, but it's not 1 story if half of the basement is above grade, is it? And also 25-foot ceilings in the main space. That's kind of a big volume of space and a big impact for the neighbors. Looking at ceilings that are 25 feet, does anyone here have ceilings that are 25 feet? It's outrageous.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look into this tomorrow. What this would be,
My church does.
well,
Churches, they would
He lives in
do
one.
it.
but what this would do is, basically, I don't believe that this would in any way compromise what we're doing tonight for the overall plan, but it could mean that this portion of it,
I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
I got it from Naked.
no, but it could mean that this portion of it was improperly issued, and therefore, there may have to be steps taken to correct this problem with this particular building.
Being that there's been a number of problems with this application, with I's not being dotted and T's not being crossed, and these are professional people working on this project. These aren't amateurs. Shouldn't it be that we just make this right before we let people do more things possibly wrong? And we haven't even seen plans yet for the new thing, like the compliant, the new proposed dwelling. So let's get this right first, wouldn't you think?
Well, unfortunately, this is actually a complaint for something that was improperly built and was probably improperly approved.
Classed as an accessory building because it's over 900 square feet.
And that may indeed be the case. Well, you can't. You can't have 2 primaries, and if it's found to be 2 primaries, it would then mean that what's been applied for, even if it were to be approved tonight, we would not be able to stamp and sign the final site plan for this project until these problems were corrected, and this becomes an accessory structure. We do take you seriously, we absolutely do.
Play by the rules of things like our wetland permit, that we're trying to put Ross right on a mistake by a previous owner.
Mhm.
And our neighbour abide by all the rules when he built his house from scratch right next to us, and no one has any issues with it at all.
No, we definitely do take you seriously, and we're going to take this very seriously. And if indeed, if tonight, The other materials that we've received from the applicant and the applicant's representatives actually do meet what the zoning law requires. If there's been a mistake with this will have to be addressed, it will have to be fixed. If this is larger than an accessory dwelling is permitted to be in that district, which I believe is 900 square feet, then this may automatically already be the primary structure, and that would have to be addressed, and we would not be able to stamp and sign the final site plan.
Just so that everybody understands, for me to keep coming here, I keep having to spend on legal advice, legal letters that don't necessarily get responded to, by anyone. And, you've rammed into this already, and you haven't done anything wrong.
No, you haven't.
Understand what's going on.
Well, that's what we're going to try and do tomorrow as well, is find out exactly what happened with this and how it was put together. And as I said, tonight's action, still working on this site plan and special use permit, if it were approved, given what we have before us today for the overall plan, if indeed this turns out to have been built erroneously and the CO was erroneously issued, then this could well be considered the primary structure, and then that will have to be resolved before I would be in a position to stamp and sign the site plan and special use permit to permit the other structure to be built. So this will be looked into. I mean, we do take it seriously.
I'll hear back via Gretchen.
Oh, yeah, yes, you'll definitely hear what we do tomorrow.
Have you heard anything directly from people apart from at these meetings coming back to us directly?
Well, what we were doing is, since they'd put it on hiatus, I think they were dealing with some of the deed restrictions, as I recall.
Yes, we've been
Well,
working.
that's-
Not received any complete plans with amendments.
Well, I know you may not have, but from the planning board standpoint, we've been asked, I appreciate that, but we've been asked to defer considering this since back in November while they were working on the deed restrictions, so we haven't gotten any other documents and we haven't done anything else with it.
Helpful communications regarding those.
Well,
It's just been posturing.
I do appreciate that, but this is the first time that we've reopened the public hearing and come back since November at the request of the applicant to defer, so.
And if we could just make a note on the record to maybe avoid doing these meetings on holidays. We don't do them on Christmas, we don't do them 4th of July, we don't do them for Thanksgiving. If it would fall on that day, it would be adjourned to another day. And, this is, I'm not Jewish, but my husband and my kids, they celebrate, and I'm missing out tonight.
Well, I'm saying we do try to be observant to the best of our ability. Members of the planning board, any questions for the applicants? Anything more from the public? I don't believe we need to keep the public hearing open. I think this is an issue of possibly a mistake down in the building department and something that has to be addressed along those lines, as opposed to...
We're making a very big assumption that it's not a legal accessory dwelling. It has no windows in the basement, therefore it has no egress. It's uninhabitable if there's no egress.
Well, there is egress from outside.
There's one door, but that's not going to meet code. It's not going to meet the amount of egress you need to make it a habitable space. But before we go there, that's something that you're going to determine.
Well, that's what we're going to do tomorrow. I'm not saying that this is going to hold up the proceeding tonight.
It should.
It's going to be something that we're going to look into and see if indeed it is a violation that we need to address down the road.
Agreed.
No. Okay, and it is, and we will be using that and looking into that. Yes, thank you. And we will let you know how this all works out. We will. Oh, you will be, I promise. Any other comments from the public? Okay. Could I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
No.
Oh, wait a minute, I have to do the
You
secret
have
resolution.
draft seeker resolution.
Right. Okay. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board hereby acts on a proposed action involving applications for to the Planning Board for special use permit and site plan approval in the matter of LXMI Property Holdings LLC in the matter of the proposed construction of a 5-bedroom dwelling installation of related site improvements and establishment of a 5-bedroom detached accessory dwelling on a 15-acre parcel at 18 Haggerty Hill Road with a rural countryside district, being the subject of prior Dutchess County Health Department approval. 1, pursuant to the Planning Board's classification of the proposed action as an unlisted action under seeker, determines upon its review of the short EAF Part 1 and its own completion of the annexed EAF Part 2, in consideration of both the criteria for determining significance set forth at Title VI, Part 617.7c NYCRR, and consistency with the town design guidelines, the proposed action as described above will cause no potential significant adverse impact on the environment and thus issues a negative declaration, determination of non-significance under seeker, meaning an environmental impact statement to not be required, stating as such will not be prepared. 2, authorizes the chair to so execute the short EAF and directs the planning board clerk to distribute and file the executed determination of significance in the manner set forth within the seeker implementing regulations, Title 6, Part 617.12 NYCRR. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Could I hear a second? Any discussion? I will poll the board. Eric?
Aye.
Melody?
Aye.
Sharon? Richard?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Could I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I have a recommendation, Michael.
Yes, sir.
And board for a modification in light, on the draft approval resolution in light of the discussion that just occurred. Part of this resolution is a reaffirmation of the prior grant of special use permit for what is termed here the earlier proposed and since constructed accessory dwelling unit on the property. I propose that you add to that, doing so without determination as would be beyond the authority of the planning board as to the appropriateness of the certificate of occupancy subsequently issued by the building inspector. It's not your issue. It's if there is a question, it's at the building inspector.
Why are we making the accessory structure part of this approval? Why are we making it a factor at all?
We're basically
have to
because it
address-
is part of this. This approval is for the master plan
It's for the overall plan, which
Right.
includes the detached as well as the principal.
and all site improvements.
Yeah.
Basically, it's
So what you've
redoing
been
that.
basically asked to do is, for the most part, is reaffirm or reinstate your prior approval with some minor modification in the site plan or whatever that has occurred. So this is really...
Even though we don't have a violation, we have the...
You've got an allegation, you're saying that allegation is outside of your purview.
Right.
Okay.
We're recognizing
So
it, but realizing it does not impact what we're doing here tonight.
That's appropriate, Victoria.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
All right, we have the lawyers agreeing here, so I think I'll continue. Okay, I'll hit the high points here. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board hereby acts on the application to the Planning Board by LXMI Property Holdings LLC in the matter of the proposed construction of a 5-bedroom dwelling, installation of related site improvements, and establishment of a 1-acre detached accessory dwelling on a 15-acre parcel. While acknowledging an issue has been raised by neighboring property owners concerning an alleged failure of the applicant to abide by deed restrictions shared by the applicant's parcel and theirs, determines upon advice of counsel the consideration of such issue as a private matter and one not within the purview of the planning board. With respect to the application for special use permit, is this the one you wanted to?
Yes.
Okay.
How far did you get on that?
I just got to with respect to the application for special use permit.
Well, go on.
Reaffirms its prior grant of special use permit for the earlier proposed and since constructed accessory dwelling unit on the parcel.
Doing so without determination as would be beyond the authority of the planning board as to the appropriateness of the certificate of occupancy subsequently issued by the building inspector.
3, with respect to the application for site plan approval, approves the application inclusive of an engineering drawing prepared and stamped by Mark R. Graminski, P.E.N.L.S., dated August 9th, 2017, entitled Site Plan Lot 2, prepared for LXMI Property Holdings, LLC, and Building Elevations, SK1, prepared by the Art of Building, dated October 20th, 2017, each stamp received by the Planning Board on November 27th, 2017. B, authorizes the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above-cited site plan and building elevations upon the applicant's satisfaction of the below conditions and/or requirements within 6 calendar months of the adoption of this resolution. 1, submission of the above-cited drawings in the form and number specified within Town Code Chapter 125, Section 125-78B, except as may be modified to a lesser number by the chair in consideration of filing and distribution requirements, and including thereon all required stamps, seals, and certifications. 2, payment of any outstanding fees and/or reimbursable amounts due the Town of Rhinebeck related to the review and processing of the applications subject to this resolution. In taking this action, the Planning Board further authorizes the town's zoning enforcement officer and/or building inspector, following receipt of the above-cited drawings stamped and signed by the chair, to issue first a building permit and subsequently a certificate of occupancy
For the proposed principal dwelling upon his determination. He's already dealt with the accessory.
use for each of the 2 single-family dwellings, i.e. the principal dwelling and the accessory.
that's-
Oh, we're good to go? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
for the proposed principal dwelling.
Okay, upon its determination, both the terms of this resolution and all other codes, laws, rules, or regulations within the purview of the ZEO and/or building inspector, including but not limited to the requirements of the New York State Uniform Building Construction and Fire Prevention Code, have been satisfied. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Could I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion by the board? I'll poll the board. Eric?
Aye.
Melody?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Sharon? Aye. And I vote aye. The other thing I want to mention, and something we'll be probably putting in our resolutions in the future, you have 6 months to get this to me to stamp and sign, but the special use permit is only good for 6 months from the date of the resolution being approved by the planning board, not from the stamping and signing by the chair. That caused a little bit of a problem with the McCown resolution, so just so we don't go down that road again, I just thought I'd let you all know that.
Thank you.
Okay?
And for the board, those few words were stricken from the last paragraph because the building inspector has in fact issued a building permit previously and issued a CO previously for the detached, so this only applied, that last paragraph only applied to the principal.
I'm now going to take myself off, and the next two things will be handled by the vice chair.
All right, the next public hearing is for Walt Horstman, 32 Cove Road. This is for a special use permit and site plan approval. The conduct of combined public hearing on applications for special use permit under Town Code Chapter 125 zoning, Section 125-40, and site plan review and approval in the matter of construction of a 672-square-foot detached garage and relocation of a driveway on a single-family dwelling premises, 2.1-acre tax map parcel listed at 32 Cove Road within the Land Conservation and Water Resources Overlay Districts and the town's LWRA being classified as an unlisted action under seeker.
Before Mr. Horstman begins, just for the board's information, Mr. Horstman is aware of this, my meeting notes did not reflect the fact that the acting CEO was requiring a variance be issued, be considered in this particular case. Therefore, my meeting notes considered the possibility of moving this forward to an approval this evening. That cannot occur until the ZBA acts.
Okay, I think we're scheduled for the ZBA Wednesday. Right. Okay. Yeah, so I have the full sketch plan, so should I put that up to?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Why is a variance required?
Oh.
All right. So it's a 24 by 28 garage, which is on the non-river side of the property. So the idea of the whole project is, this is the river side. There's currently a driveway that cuts between the property and the river. The garage was enclosed, which was under the house, by the former owner. So consequently, all cars currently park on this raised retaining wall area that are then in sight of the river. So the idea is to move the driveway and a detached garage to the non-river side of the house so that it would actually improve the view of the house from the river, both looking out to the river and then also from the riverside looking at the house. There won't be any cars parked along, or there won't be a driveway that's then visible from the river. Yeah, and the other part of the project is to restore where the current driveway is and bring that back to the original slope that was part of this piece of property before the driveway was then cut into that slope. I think one other point to note is that we've chosen to site the garage in the flattest area. This is actually quite a hilly property. The house actually sits on top of the ridge, and so we found what is I think the flattest area of the property to site the garage, so that we have less or minimal impact in terms of disruption of the earth. And then also the driveway, there's a relatively flat area from the road into the garage to also have as minimal disruption to the land. I think finally, the way that the garage is actually a fairly low-pitched roof. It's only going to be 12 feet high, so probably won't be able to even see it from the river because it's actually going to be tucked behind the ridge. And yeah, I think that's sort of all the considerations that we've sort of gone into. Oh, I think the final thing is, just in terms of the garage, we are not going to have any side entrances. We're actually just going to have it open from the front because that would require putting in retaining walls if we wanted to have a side door to actually sort of walk out the side of the garage. So it's just going to be entrance from the garage door and then create a stone path just up to the house.
Okay, I'm assuming, Gretchen, all the ministerial requirements have been met? Okay. CIB, Waterfront Advisory?
Good evening, Robert Donaldson, Conservation Advisory Board, Waterfront Advisory Committee. The WAC finds no issues or concerns regarding the location and construction of the detached garage, relocation of the new driveway, elimination of the original driveway on the southern side of the property, restoring the land to its original condition, and stormwater runoff improvement along Cove Road. The plant construction components comply with applicable policies found in the scenic area of statewide significance policies, as well as the town's LWRP.
Thank you. Who did the site visit?
With Woody.
Oh, and I have a comment from Woody when you're done.
Oh, okay.
Or you can read it.
All right, I'll read Woody's first.
All right.
As a result of my not being able to attend the 12/18 Planning Board meeting, I'm asking you to read this. On December 2nd, I attended a site review at 32 Cove Road. It is my opinion the applicant's request is reasonable and there are no Planning Board issues. So I just, excuse me, I want to go up to this site plan.
Give that to Gretchen. Yeah.
When we were there was discussion of moving the driveway this way a little bit in order to save some very tall trees that are very close to where the driveway originally was plotted. So it's going to be here someplace, right?
Right. That's correct. We made a decision when we had the site visit that we would move the driveway further up to here because that's a flatter area and not try to sort of bring it in through a series of trees. So it's probably going to go more like here and then wrap around.
Right. And along the road, there is, you could call it a ditch. It's very shallow, but there is obviously a place where water is running downhill this way, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's a plan to do something like a culvert under the driveway?
Under the driveway where it crosses over that ditch, yeah.
Okay. And have you seen this letter from Mr. Reek or Reek?
Yeah,
I've been
right
asked.
Here.
Okay.
Yeah. So, by the way, there was one other, I guess a couple other comments. It has been approved by the Highway Department because I know we need to have that approved. So the moving of the driveway has been approved. The other comment was when we establish a culvert here, is it going to increase water runoff in that ditch, which is then where the Reepe's driveway is here? Mm-hmm. And when we had the site visit, we thought that there was not a culvert under their driveway, and then George and Gail were out over the weekend, so we were talking about the project. They actually do have a culvert under here. It's actually just clogged.
Oh, okay.
And so I think, sort of unclogging that culvert plus our culvert will actually just send all that into runoff unobstructed. So I know that was something that came up during the site visit.
So given that, there are no issues.
Okay. Public comment. Yes, sir.
My name is George Reeky. My wife Gail and I own the property next door at 34 Cove Road. That's up here. And as already stated, our driveway comes into the road about here and goes to our house up here. We have no problem with the plan that they've shown to us. We think it looks very good. However, I wanted to bring up and have in the record a matter having to do with drainage. You should all have a copy of a comment that I submitted here this morning at the town hall. It's, as has already been stated, their property is uphill, we're downhill from them, so when there's a heavy rain, the water, if the ground is saturated, water comes down into planting beds that we have or into the area of our driveway. It hasn't been enough to bother with, but my wife and I felt that given this new construction where there will now be a roof that's not going to be able to absorb water, and a driveway which might also be less absorbent, although I'm told by Mr. Horstman that it's gravel, so that's probably not much more water. We thought it would be a good time to get together as neighbors and look at what might be done to improve that whole drainage situation. My wife and I have agreed that if they would talk to their engineers and see what should be done in connection with the earth moving they're doing anyway, we might be able to, at the same time, connect with any additional drainage they would put in, for example, adding an additional underpass under our driveway so water that came down the hill could get further down the hill on the other side of our driveway, whatever. So I'm not asking for any objection, I'm not putting in any objection here, but I would like the record to show that we're requesting that this matter of drainage be discussed by the applicants with their engineering people, and in consultation with us, we come up with a plan to improve the situation. Thank you.
What about the neighbor on the other side of you?
Yeah. Downhill.
Just teasing.
On the other side of us, further downhill, is the sewage plant. You may all be familiar with. There was a whole thing about that a few years ago. And the next house is on the other side of and there's a creek down there, and the next house is on the other side of the creek, so they're really not concerned at all.
Sounds like Mr. Horstman is amenable to this.
Yeah, yeah. I think and we all sort of walked the property over the weekend, George and his wife Gail. Yeah, and I think as we put in the driveway and then sort of think about, the impact of gravel, it may actually help drainage. I'm not sure, but have experts sort of think through what could we do to make sure that there's, adequate drainage.
Questions, comments from the planning board?
I was very impressed with your letter. Everyone had spoken together.
Yeah. We
figured it out ahead of time, and you're just doing the right thing. I think that's great.
Always glad to see neighbors working together.
All right, we continue the public hearing?
Yeah, you have to because of the ZBA consideration.
Could I have a motion to continue the public hearing until?
Well, here's
Yeah, here's
the
the
comes up of whether or not January 9th is occurring.
Well,
Normal action right now would be to continue it to January 9th at 6:35, but
So do we to have that conversation now?
it's time for that conversation.
All
Otherwise
right.
you can't.
one quick question. What was the zoning issue that came back, a setback or something?
Setback.
So they have to go back on Wednesday pending that? Okay.
It's a side setback.
We didn't catch that the first time, or it was moved closer to the sideline?
Oh, neither will I.
Gotcha.
The agenda, or the calendar for the year that was sent out had delayed our meeting of January to the 9th. Tuesday the 9th. The reason for that being the Monday holiday of the 1st and the town board meeting of the 8th. As it turns out, Art cannot be here on the 9th, I cannot be here, Woody will be away, so we're opening up the question of should that meeting be moved to a different date.
Sounds like a good idea to move it.
And I suppose the options are to move it to the following day, the 10th, which would be Wednesday, the 10th of January. Is that acceptable to everyone?
I think so.
Is it acceptable to you, Art?
Yes, I'll be back I'll be back on the 10th. I'm not here.
Will you be back by then?
I don't believe so,
Yeah,
but
but the key thing is that you will be here, which obviates which could be a potential quorum issue.
Right.
If someone else can't make it or whatever, particularly with Michael still in the position of needing to
recuse himself
from
on the
some
project.
Some matters, as long as he continues as acting CEO, which he hopes to be out of that position soon, I understand.
So may I have a motion to reschedule the first meeting for January to the 10th at 6:30 PM? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so
The
then,
ZBA is the third Wednesday, right?
Correct. They
Okay.
are meeting on the 10th.
So make sure you want to encourage.
checked.
Okay.
all right, so then we will be continuing the public hearing, or I'll need a motion to continue the public hearing until January 10th at 6:35.
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
All those in,
Second, yes.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? We'll see you on the 10th of January. Thank you. Moving along, the next public hearing is Jeff Baker, 1010 to 1014, Route 308, Special Use Permit, Site Plan Approval, and Wetlands Permit. This is a continuation from the September 18, 2017 meeting of a combined public hearing on application for wetlands permit under Town Code Chapter 120 Wetlands and applications for special use permit and site plan review and approval under Town Code Chapter 125 zoning in the matter of the dredging of approximately 400 cubic yards from Lake Sapasco and placement of 8 cubic yards of sand within an area of approximately 450 square feet within the tax map parcel listed, being classified as an unlisted action under seeker. Good evening. Would you like to make a presentation?
Not really.
It might be a good idea.
Yeah, at the public hearing we had prior, there were some concerns about our project, which involves dredging out a small swimming area on our property on Sapasco Lake. Some of the concerns were that trees were cut down on the property to make room for this swimming area. In regards to that, we submitted a tree replanting plan to the town, which has been approved. We have planted, I think it comes out to be like 20-some trees we had to plant. We've put most of those in. The few that we haven't put in yet can't be done until this project is finished, and then we could put them closer to the area that's going to be the swimming area. Another concern was habitat and any animals or plants that we might disturb on this project. And we had a habitat study undertaken and performed, which we submitted to the town. And that study indicated that we were not going to have any kind of significant disturbance of the property.
Questions from the planning board?
This, I mean, it says 400 cubic yards. I mean, the map we had seemed to have shown much more than that. And also, 400 cubic yards is barely the size of a swimming pool. Is that really an intention here?
The size of a swimming pool.
Of a swimming pool. In other words,
The area was 45 feet by, I think it went out 40 feet.
Okay, well,
3
we
feet.
saw a map, and it was a big fan-shaped section, and it went out 40 feet, but it spread way wider than that. But if you're removing only 400 cubic yards, that's only like 2 yards deep by 20 yards by, I mean, it's not that big an area, so I just like less than would be wanted for this.
Well, 40 by 40,
40 by
40 by 20 by 2 is,
I don't know.
What's the area, Jeff? 40 by 40 roughly?
Well, it's 45 at the shore, and it goes out to 90,
okay, so, yeah, so,
and it's 40 feet out.
okay.
It's like a pie shape.
Okay, 45 to 90, so it's
All
an
right, just
average
that
of 6 to 7.
according to what I saw on the map, and according to, it doesn't add up to what I,
Well,
So,
I just did a
guess
I
the
just did a
question
rough
is,
calculation.
Where did we get the 400 cubic yard number? I mean, it doesn't matter how big the square footage is, it matters how deep you
Yeah,
dig.
yeah.
yes, of course.
Here's a rough
Well, it has some
calculation.
depth, but you have to take some out of there.
Yeah.
400 cubic yards is 10,800 cubic feet. If the area 60, he said 60 by 40 on one side and 40 foot, whatever, so it works out to about a 2,700 square foot area. It would be an excavation of about 4 feet in depth across the entire area. Does that sound roughly the?
Well, it's part of it, there's going to be no excavation.
Yeah, I'm saying about
Yeah,
an average of
yeah.
an average of 4 feet is what those numbers.
3 or 4
come out
feet,
to be.
yes,
All right.
correct.
I'm impressed
It seems plausible.
with all this math.
Other questions? Concerns? Yes, I'm going to ask now for public comment. So if anyone is here wishing to speak to this application, would you please come up to the microphone? And identify yourself. Give me your name and address, please.
I'm Richard Collins, and I live on Center Street on Lake Sapasco. And my big question is, I understand that the dredging procedure will take the dredging material up over a bank, but we'd like to know where the location for this material to be deposited. I understand on the western part, just beyond the cabin there's a kettle hole, and there's a telephone pole. That'd be an ideal place to dump it, and would have no way of getting any material washed back into the lake in case there's any contaminants.
That's where it's going.
That kettle hole near the telephone pole? Okay, that was my concern.
Yeah, it's right on the road.
Can you have any questions?
Other questions, concerns? Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Are you wishing to speak, young lady? There you go.
I was wondering
Could you give us your name and address, please?
I'm Annika Hale. I live, that was my grandfather. I live on Center Street.
Okay.
And I was wondering, since the area that you're going to be dredging will probably affect a lot of species, if you're going to, like, do anything to any other part of the lake to make it more habitable to other species, so that it, like, is sort of an even exchange, so, like, if it does affect anything, if you're planning on helping the lake.
Mr. Baker?
The habitat study that was done indicated that the area that we're dredging out doesn't really have much in the way of has no vegetation other than some lily pads and things like that. So that's why the study came out that this would be an ideal place to do this, because it's going to have minimal impact on
Okay, and then also, we have been looking at the stakes that you put in, and over the past, I guess, months that you put them in, they seem to have sunk, like, significantly. And we're wondering, like, if that would affect the dredging also, because, like, it's a really fragile ecosystem there. Like, the sediment and all the other soil types there, like, I don't know if they're really the best for that, but, like, if that would cause any difficulties or problems or, like, long-term losses to the area. Yeah. Like.
And where the stakes are is just where the turbidity fence needs to go. So they're not permanent, and they're only markers for us, so that we wouldn't far out.
And then also, so you have the area marked out about how far it's going to go out, but I was wondering, so if like the area where you're going to put the sand, that's the like peninsula area, like where it comes out like that. So you have the area marked out how far, but we don't know how like long. So is it just like out to the banks, or could you tell like where, how far, how long instead of how wide also? Because that would affect it.
Indicated on the plans. The sand is going to go where the swimming area is going to be, so it's going to be about 45 feet wide and about 10 feet. 45 feet from the shoreline and then 10 feet into the water.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll wait.
Okay.
I'm Edward Russell. I'm 1035 Route 308. I farm the land at Jeffries, and the reason why we want it to go in that hole that's there is we're going to lime it, fertilize it, and so let it bring back the field back itself. The nutrients from the lily pads, the death of the lily pads and stuff there will bring up and neutralize the property so we can grow hay better on there and whatnot. That's why, if you notice, it's been plowed up and disced up. The fields are and being limed. So I'm for the plan.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Edna, you had a question?
Right, I do. I understand that there is a planting plan and it was approved and much of it is already done, but I'm curious about it. When we were there, there were a lot of stumps where trees had been cut. Were the stumps pulled, or is there a plan to pull them, or what's happening with the stumps?
Yes, the stumps are in the swimming area. When it's excavated, those stumps will be taken out.
They will be taken out, okay. And then trees were planted, where were they planted?
Pretty much along the entire peninsula, around the exterior of the peninsula.
And what sort of trees were they?
Mixture. We had some maple trees, dogwood trees, redbud. I think there was an oak tree.
Were you collaborated on that list of trees with someone?
Yeah, we brought to an arborist, yes.
Okay, and were there any changes made to the recommendations of the arborist?
Yeah, a lot more trees.
But the species stayed the same?
And I think we were down to 22 trees.
I thought I saw something, maybe I'm forgetting or getting it wrong, that there were some changes made based on the types of trees that would do well in that environment. Is that correct?
All the trees that we did planted are made for that wetlands and near the wetlands.
Okay.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Where that dredge material is going to be put, is that just going to be one area that's going to be put in, or is that going to be spread across that whole field, or?
No. It's about 8 feet deep, and it's a coal.
Yeah, what the gentleman mentioned earlier, there's a kettle bowl, or whatever you want to call it, on the property. It's a depression. I don't know if it's naturally occurring or someone dug out gravel from the property.
Yeah, years ago, we dug gravel.
Is that the area in the woods?
No.
It's in that field, because
we tried to find it.
We couldn't find where you're talking about.
We
We looked
used
at
the
the map and we
measurements.
measured from what was on the
Very
map.
obvious.
It wasn't very obvious to us doing the site visit, so that's why I'm curious. And I didn't see a telephone pole either, so I'm just, I'm lost as to where you're talking about.
You sure you went to the right site?
Pretty sure. I mean, the markers for where the dredging was were there, and everything else was on the property. I just didn't see a depression that was obvious or with anywhere near a telephone pole. Pardon?
You pull up the main road.
Came up the driveway, came all the way to the
The
house.
stone pillar,
Yeah.
Just past the stone wall.
right past the stone pillar.
Okay, closer to the road then.
So it must have been a lot closer to the road than was indicated on our map.
No, we measured it, with tape measure.
It was way out by the road. I
Very
remember.
close to where it's indicated on the map.
Well, the neighbor seems to know where it is.
I don't know how we could have missed it.
More questions, comments from the board? Public, yes, ma'am?
I was wondering, in your presentation, you said that you had planted some of the trees, but you said you were going to plant more after the dredging. Could you explain why?
Yes, because the area where we're dredging, we couldn't put the trees in because it would be in the way of the excavator that's coming in until he finishes. There's more trees that are going to be closer to the swimming area, but we couldn't put them in there.
I know, for sure. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Virginia Ewer Wolf, and I live at 405 Sapasco Center Street in the village. And I wonder if the environmental impact statement has made particular and specific references to the lives of the fish species in the lake. And how could we see that environmental impact statement, although I may have had an opportunity to see it and haven't taken that opportunity? Can you direct us to that? The town has a copy of it, I see. And we were not told about this meeting until this evening. And we live in the village, and we have been wondering why there were only 3 of us here tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. 4. Why weren't we told, we Sapasco Village residents?
Did you receive prior notification? Because this is not the first public hearing.
No, the earlier meeting, was that it was in September? Yes?
I've lost track.
Sounds about right, but I don't know.
Could be.
I was told about 45 minutes before the meeting. The phone calls were going around the village that there's a meeting tonight, and several of us were here that evening. And we wondered why we hadn't been told a little earlier. And now the same thing. I wonder why.
What's the distance? Notification?
Within 500 feet.
Within 5, the notification requirement is by mail, is within 500 feet.
I didn't know that.
Announce this meeting at the last meeting?
We did.
Right, so
We did.
last meeting, when everyone was here, we
Oh.
to this meeting.
Well, then that's on me. I didn't note the date.
I think we also had talked about notification to the association.
Yeah, the association,
In the hopes
villages.
that the association would continue to keep their members updated.
And excuse me,
They just,
So we didn't notice what was
Posted on
doing.
the town clerk's thing.
Right.
And on the website.
right, the agenda's on the website and on the town clerk's.
then I wasn't attentive enough.
We do realize in a situation like Sapasco Village, where so many people are so close that, it's a difficult notification, but within 500 feet is where the notification requires us to go.
And I did not know that regulation about 500 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we also have a new, at least I got an email that looked new to me.
Yeah.
If you subscribe to the town website and put your email address in there, you'll get the agenda mailed right to you, and you click on it, and you can pull it right up for the zoning board and the planning board. So you can scan it once a month or twice a month, just to see if there's anything you're interested in.
Then it does behoove us all to be more attentive to that, and I was not. I'm real.
It's another chore.
Yes, and one with deep and vast rewards if we are attentive enough.
Yes.
And I was not. But I still want to know about the fish. Thank you.
Well, I think that report is also available. The documents that you're talking about are all part of the public record in the office here? Yes.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Other public comment? Okay.
Seeker resolution?
Yep, I have a seeker resolution here before you.
Which specifically references the Habitat report.
Right. Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board, the first paragraph covers pretty much the introduction. Pursuant to the Planning Board's classification of the proposed action as an unlisted action under seeker, determines upon its review of a short EAF Part 1 and its own completion of the annexed short EAF Part 2, in consideration of both the criteria for determining significance set forth at Title VI, Part 617.7C NYCRR, and consistency with pertinent agricultural and wetland protection policies, that the proposed action as described above will cause no potential significant adverse impact on the environment, and thus issues a negative declaration under seeker, deeming an environmental impact statement to not be required and stating such will not be prepared. 2, authorizes the chair to so execute the short EAF and directs the planning board clerk to distribute and file the executed determination of significance in the manner set forth within the seeker implementing regulations, Title VI, Part 617.12 NYCRR.
A one-word change, so authorizes the vice chair.
So authorizes the vice chair.
Vice chair, number 2.
Okay, so 2 authorizes the vice chair since Michael had recused himself. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
I'll pull the board. Eric?
Aye.
Edna?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Sharon?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. May I pull the board?
Aye.
Eric? Edna?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Sharon? I'll vote aye. We have a draft approval resolution under Town Code Chapters 120 Wetlands, 125 Zoning. Number 1, with respect to the application for wetlands permit, finds the proposed work will have limited, if not negligible, degrading effect on the proposed wetlands in consideration of both the above-cited ecological habitat assessment report required by the Planning Board and prior review of the proposed project by New York State DEC. B, approves the application for wetlands permit under Town Code Chapter 120 Wetlands for a period of 2 years from the date of this resolution and authorizes the Vice Chair to so note on the above-cited site plan and provide copies thereof to the applicant, the CEO, and the building inspector upon the applicant's satisfaction of the following conditions and/or requirements within 6 calendar months of the adoption of this resolution. Grant of amended site plan approval. 2, with respect to the application.
Strike the word amended.
Grant of site plan approval. With respect to the application for special use permit, A, determines the intended excavation and fill activities to conform with pertinent town requirements, both as to particular activities and the general standards applicable to all special use permits. B, approves the requested special use permit. 3, with respect to the application for site plan approval, approves the application inclusive of a drawing entitled, we'll fill in the blanks, prepared by and dated, which drawing shall, in tandem with the remedial plan previously accepted by the acting CEO, be considered the site plan for this limited project. B, in consideration of the Planning Board Chair's recusal in this matter due to his service as acting CEO, authorizes the Planning Board Vice Chair to stamp and sign the above-cited site plan and associated remedial plan upon the applicant's satisfaction of the below conditions and/or requirements within 6 calendar months of the adoption of this resolution. 1, submission of the above-cited drawings in the form and number specified within Town Code Chapter 125, Section 125-78B, except as may be modified as to a lesser number by the Vice Chair in consideration of filing and distribution requirements, and including thereon all required stamp seals and certifications. 2, payment of any outstanding fees and/or reimbursable amounts due the town of Rhinebeck related to the review and processing of the application subject of this resolution. In taking this action, the Planning Board further authorizes the town zoning enforcement officer and/or building inspector, following receipt of the above-cited drawings stamped and signed by the Vice Chair, to issue any further permits or authorizations for the intended work upon her determination, both the terms of this resolution and all other applicable codes, laws, rules, or regulations, if any, within the purview of the CEO and her building inspector have been satisfied.
It is his determination.
Oh, okay.
His refers to the CEO.
Oh, all right.
Unless we
Apologies,
have something about
Michael.
the CEO that I don't.
Okay, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Eric, second. Sharon, pull the board, Eric.
Aye.
Edna?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Sharon? And I'll vote aye. I'd just like to make one comment. I was very impressed by your comments, and, you know, give yourself maybe another 10 years, and then I'd like you to apply to be on the planning board. There's always room for very smart people and very hardworking people, and you strike me as one of those. So, okay.
So, Michael, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you know about things like this.
Uh-oh.
This application is allowed by our town law, I understand
Yes.
that. But if everybody around that lake did it, what would happen to the lake and to the environment?
That's a very good question, and at some point, we would have to actually start looking at the cumulative effects of doing something like this.
Right.
In the report that Jason did, the habitat report, he found that the species that he found in that area would be likely to be in that area, assuming this was not done during the summer, something like that, would not be negatively affected by this in that area. That doesn't mean there aren't other areas of the lake that are far more sensitive, and that potential damage could be done. Just this one area, that's all this really speaks to.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a shoreline that was all sand,
Yeah.
it would be a different lake. It would be a
Significantly
different.
different.
Yeah.
But there are areas out beyond this 40 feet that remain in that lily pad situation
Yes.
that would not be touched by that.
That would
So you
not
would
be.
have a deep area and then a shallow area.
And the lily
and a
pads
deep area.
themselves have changed things so much that there's a certain lack of
You should be pulling those out.
consistency as to what it should have been anyway, that's already altered it, because a lot of the natural vegetation that would be there has just been suffocated out, just
Yeah.
the way kudzu does it down south.
Well, and I'm not sure we're digressing a little bit here and taking up some of your time, but it seems to me that that's the kind of thing I would encourage the homeowners association to look into themselves, because it's obviously something that would affect everybody that owns property on that lake, and you would think they would want to be doing it to protect the best interests of everybody there as well as the resource.
I would be shocked if they don't have mechanisms in place right now to do some kind of study on a 10-year basis to make sure that lake is healthy.
Well-
And you get free help from New York State to come in and do an analysis on water content.
Actually, the studies I asked for, and the studies they actually have, are on management of the water lilies, but they didn't have any studies they could share with me on actual studying what lives there, why it lives there, what the impact of changes could be on it. So I hope at some point they will do that, but at this point, apparently, they don't have that, at least from what they shared with me, or were able to share with me.
My personal opinion, I see this as a very small part of the lake.
Oh, this is.
If anything, there's a humongous beach with hundreds of people on the other side of this lake.
That's true.
I mean, that by itself, I would ask, is that monitored at all? And what happens with all the sand and the approach, ever-changing shoreline on the other side?
From the information they provided me with, apparently not at this point in time.
But to talk about the health of a lake, I mean, lakes go through a series of, goes through eutrophication, and it's just a natural process. So eventually, this will be a wetland, and after that, it'll be a forest. And, where do we say, in a zoning sense, do we say this is always going to be a lake and we will maintain it that way? I don't, it doesn't make ecological sense.
Okay.
Moving right along. Ferncliff Forest, Inc., 68 Mount Rutson Road, wetlands permit and site plan approval. Conduct of combined public hearing and application for amended site plan approval under Town Code Chapter 125 zoning and application for wetlands permit under Town Code Chapter 120 wetlands in the matter of a proposed construction of an 815 square foot covered pavilion within the Land Conservation District in the town's WLRA. The proposed location modified since prior grant of site plan approval on July 17, 2017, to now be within regulated wetland buffer, being classified as an unlisted action, under seeker. Warren.
Good evening. So this time we're dealing with a pond instead of a lake. I'm Warren Smith representing Ferncliff Forest, and with me is Nick Staley, a ranger, Ferncliff Forest. As you recall, and as was mentioned there in the statement that Michael read, we were before you last year, earlier this year, July, to get approval for a pavilion, sort of covered, open pavilion for picnics and so forth in the park. And at the time, we placed it carefully outside the wetland buffer, but also not on top of the spoils area from the dredging that happened there a few years ago. And once we met up there with the representatives of the Planning Board and the Conservation Advisory Board, and we spoke to the folks at Ferncliff Forest again, we decided that maybe in the woods was not the best place for this pavilion, that bringing it much closer to the access road, the walkway that comes up right at the top of the hill, where there's sort of a little kiosk and some information and some camping stands where it's very visible, made more sense. But in order to avoid, again, the aforementioned spoils dredging deposit area, that put us into the wetland buffer. It turns out it's not a terrible risk to the wetland, the pond, because there's a path that's been there a long time and a stone wall beyond, the existing stone wall beyond where the pavilion will go, and there's a slight rise in grade to that point before it drops down to the bank of the pond. So our feeling was that to put it within the wetland buffer, about 60 foot from the edge of the pond, was actually a very safe location to put it in terms of minimal risk to disturb the pond, and a more logical place to put it in terms of its, again, visibility, utility to visitors, keeping away from some of the private campsites a little further on. So for that reason, really the only change to this proposed site plan is relocating this proposed pavilion, which you see rendered here, from a location sort of up here to down here. And so we are within the wetland buffer, but outside these spoils deposit area. Everything else is the same what you saw last time around.
Did we do another site visit?
Yeah, Eric and Richard,
okay.
along with two representatives of the CAB.
Richard, you want to?
Sure. Where they're putting it now as compared to where they were doing it before, it's just 10 times better. It's very simple. It's accessible when you come in, whether it's you're bringing a party of people in there for the day to enjoy the site and everything. It's right on the path.
Yep.
So it's really not disturbing any trees, as opposed to before. I think you were cutting quite a number of trees down. And even to access the pavilion where it was before, you'd be going right by, close to the lake, which would be more traffic and heavier traffic on it. And right by the pavilion, the small camping, which is by itself, it's a nice cozy little spot right now. This made sense. We talked about rain runoff and everything, and really, there's nothing's going to affect what's there right now. It's a great spot for it.
I concur.
Report from the CAC, WAC.
Good evening again. The WAC finds no issues or concerns regarding the architectural style of the pavilion to be erected in the open area near the south pond of the Ferncliff Preserve. Now, being that Ferncliff Forest is located in the Hudson River National Historic Landmark District and the Estates District, a scenic area of statewide significance, along with being included in the town's comprehensive plan and the local waterfront recovery program, the WAC recommends that the project architect engineers follow the policies mentioned in the submitted consistency review, especially in regard to preserving the healthy trees along the trail from the parking lot area to the site of the proposed construction, as well as the 19th century fieldstone wall that's located between the site of the project and that of the pond.
Thank you. Any comment or questions from members of the planning board for the applicant? Any comment from the public? Hearing none, I have a draft seeker resolution. Okay. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board hereby acts on a proposed action involving amended site plan application approval under Town Code Chapter 125 zoning and application for a wetlands permit in the matter of a proposed construction of an 815 square foot covered pavilion within a regulated wetland buffer of the Land Conservation District in the town's LWRA. Pursuant to the Planning Board's classification of the proposed action as an unlisted action under seeker, determines upon its review of the short EAF Part 1 and its own completion of the annexed short EAF Part 2 in consideration of both the criteria for determining significance set forth at Title 6.617.7c NYCRR and consistency with pertinent wetland protection policies. The proposed action, as described above, will cause no potential significant adverse impact on the environment and thus issues a negative declaration determination of non-significance under seeker, deeming an environmental impact statement to not be required and stating such will not be prepared. 2, authorizes the chair to so execute the short EAF and directs the planning board clerk to distribute and file the executed determination of significance in the manner set forth within the seeker implementing regulations, Title 6.617.12 NYCRR. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Could I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'll poll the board. Richard?
Aye.
Sharon?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Edna?
Aye.
Melody?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Could I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving right along.
On this resolution, Michael, the approval's resolution, items 1A and B and 2A would suffice for the reading.
All righty.
Because it's an amended approval.
Having read a preface previously for the draft seeker resolution, we will move right along to, with respect to the application for wetlands permit, finds the proposed work to have limited, if not negligible, degrading effect on the protected wetlands in consideration of the erosion and sediment control measures, silt fence installation that has been recommended as a best management practice by the CAB and is required to be employed prior to conduct of the work and maintained until all disturbed areas are properly vegetated. With respect to the application for...
It approves the application.
Oh, and approves the application for wetlands permit, yes, indeed, for a period of 2 years from the date of this resolution, and authorizes the chair to so note on the above-cited site plan and provide copies thereof to the applicant, CEO, and the building inspector. All right, and you have 6 months to meet the necessary requirements for me to stamp and sign, but that will bring us up to the application for amended site plan approval. Approves the application inclusive of a bound set of drawings, including an architectural site plan C1, prepared and stamped by Warren Temple Smith, RA, as revised to August 28, 2017, and entitled Pavilion at Ferncliff Forest, a related topography map prepared by Kevin Young, Land Surveying, and dated September 7, 2017, and a further related wetland boundary map prepared by Renia Engineering Design, PLLC, and dated June 18, 2013. And that, you think that's enough?
Yeah, the rest of it is.
All right. Well, so be it. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
And a second. Oh, boy, that's good. Okay, assuming that... Edna, please put down Eric as an aye. Edna?
Aye.
Melody?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Sharon?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we now have a series of time extension requests.
Actually, the first one is deleted now, right? Michael?
Yes.
Hoskinson, Fisher, this one has been satisfied?
That's the one that we found, right, rolled up with a Mylar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both site plan and subdivision have been satisfied?
Yes.
Okay,
We're good to go.
so delete.
Moving right along.
No,
Aaron and Margot Welkenfeld, 12 Haggerty Hill Road, request for time extension, subdivision plat and wetlands permit.
Page 13 of the notes.
Upon timely request of the applicant, the planning board hereby extends for a period of 180 calendar days from July 14, 2017 to July 11, 2018, the deadline for satisfaction of conditions and/or requirements.
Hold it. From January 14, 2018 to July 11, 2018.
Ah, very good. With the planning board subdivision plat and wetlands permit resolution of July 17, 2017, in the matter of the location of a proposed single-family dwelling and related lot line alteration at 12 Haggerty Hill Road in the rural countryside RC5 district. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. The next one we have is a new application, special use permit and site plan approval. Sketch plan conference and initial presentation of applications for special use permit and site plan approval under Town Code Chapter 125 zoning to authorize establishment of a 690 square foot accessory apartment within an existing single-family dwelling on a 1.4 acre parcel within the rural countryside district through conversion of a present built space and addition of outdoor deck. Planning board review and processing as may be timely under Town Code Chapter 125 and seeker. And do we have the applicant here? Yes. You want to come up and show us what you want to do?
That's for June and academic.
What?
Michael, what is the address for this application?
The one we have right now.
6 Eagle Road.
Oh, 6 Eagle Road, thanks. Where is that?
So, my name is Sherry Gagliardi. My daughter Brittany Crookshank lives at 6 Eagle Road in Rhinebeck. And Brittany purchased the house 6, 7, 8 months ago. And what we're trying to do is have an auxiliary dwelling within the principal dwelling. Already on her property, she has a 2-car garage, and then there's like an attached room. And what we're trying to do is just use the original footprint. We're not adding anything, and I'd like to make an apartment for me to live with my daughter.
Questions?
What's the size of the entire dwelling?
I know, it's 800, it's under the 900, that much I know. I'm sorry.
The entire.
Her entire
The
property?
dwelling says 690.
Okay.
This is how big is the whole house?
I'm so sorry, my builder was sick tonight, so we're winging this. I really don't know.
So represents a quarter to a third of the,
Yeah.
entire?
Yeah.
30% or less.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It meets the square footage criteria that are in the ordinance for an accessory apartment.
Okay.
Both in terms of percentage of the whole as well as the size of the unit itself.
Okay.
It's adding an outdoor deck, though, right? So there is some growth.
Yes, yes.
And is this, how many bedroom residence is this?
Her home has 4 bedrooms, 3 of which are used as bedrooms, 1 is used as an office.
And this will add a bedroom or use one of the existing bedrooms?
No, this will add a bedroom.
Okay, and so is the health department appraised of this and the requirement for reviewing the septic system, or?
Well, I believe, I mean, they're only using the 3 bedrooms, so the house was a 4-bedroom, so.
You're using the bedroom that's currently being used as an office for this new?
No. There will be a new bedroom put on.
Oh,
You're adding a bedroom?
We are adding a bedroom in the garage, which is already existing garage.
Garage is existing space that you're going to take over?
Correct.
All right, so you truly are adding another bedroom?
Well, you can have an office.
Right.
In reaction to your question, Eric, that's why there's a paragraph 7 in the procedural resolution.
Okay.
Which calls for the applicant to address in writing in the interim how water supply and sanitary sewage arrangements are going to be met in accordance with health department regulations. And obviously, that's going to require a consultation with the health department.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, it's included as 7 in the procedural.
Very good.
Other questions?
Where's Eagle Road?
It's right on Rhinebeck Estates, right off 9G.
Okay, on top of the
Oh,
building.
okay.
So where it veers off to the left is Eagle, and then it goes to It's Peacock, is straight.
Oh, it's birds. It's all birdland.
Veers off to the left and then goes down the hill down.
Yeah, so Eagle is if you go towards the left and then go down, and then Peacock runs.
So where is his house? It's on the left-hand side?
It's the third house. on the left.
On that corner going there.
Yeah, sort of on the corner.
Across from the Shopin. Across from the Shopin.
I think so. Is he a golfer?
No, his daughter's in.
Other questions? Okay, well, I do have a procedural resolution.
One change, obviously, in here is the
date.
Public hearing is Wednesday, the 10th at 6:40.
All righty, here we go. Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board hereby acts as follows on the applications by Brittany Cruikshank for special use permit and site plan approval under Town Code Chapter 125 zoning to authorize establishment of a 690 square foot accessory apartment within an existing single-family dwelling in a 1.4 acre parcel within the rural countryside RC5 district through conversion of present built space and addition of an outdoor deck. 1, endorses the sketch plan and in consideration of a zoning determination sign-off by the ZEO, accepts the applications and supporting documents as adequate for initiating review by the planning board, its advisors, and the public in the manner set forth below. 2, classifies the proposed action as a type 2 action under seeker for which further environmental quality review is precluded. 3, schedules a combined public hearing on the applications for Tuesday, January 10th, 2018 at 6:40, and directs the clerk to undertake or otherwise cause the noticing and posting thereof in accordance with the requirements set forth within Town Code Chapter 125. Delegates planning board members. Who wants to go for a visit?
I'll go.
I'll go.
Edna and Eric? Okay. To conduct a field visit to the modified project site and report their observations at the time of public hearing. We want to coordinate with them about when to do the site visit. In accordance with Town Code Chapter 9, Conservation Advisory Board refers the applications to the Town CAB for review and written comment concerning environmental factors. The response to be January 10th. Yes.
Same thing.
Wherever you see a 9, put a 10. In accordance with Chapter 239 of the General Municipal Law, refers the applications to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development for advisory opinion with response requested not later than January 10th, 2018. Request the applicant address in writing in the interim, how water supply and sanitary sewage requirements for the accessory dwelling unit are being met, including consideration of any approvals previously issued by the Dutchess County Health Department or any new approval that may be required from the Dutchess County Health Department or other agency. 8, authorizes the town planning consultant, without prejudice to any information or comment that may be presented at the public hearing or may arise on the basis of both the above-cited field visit and referral, to prepare a working drafts of an approvals resolution for the planning board's consideration on January 10th, 2018, or as may be later timely. All righty, could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. So
Thank
coordinate
you.
with them for the site visit.
Will do, thank you.
And do we have an email address for them?
You do.
Okay, email it to me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Art. At this time, I'd like a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Melody, did you want to go on the site? I sort of stepped on you or that.
Yeah, I would like to.
Okay, why don't you go ahead, or you want to come
okay.
too, that's fine too.
Coordinate?
I think we can stay here as long as
Given the fact that there's no one else here.
the sound is down and the camera will be off, and then we'll come back. And as soon as the camera is on, I will read it. And I will then ask for...
Chauncey wanted to be present.
yes, thank you.
There.
Okay. Whereas the Town of Planning Board consists of 7 members with Michael Trimble as its chairperson, and whereas it has come to the attention of the Planning Board that board member Richard Murray unilaterally held himself out as representing the members of the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board, in a delivery wrote to Judge Maria Rosa with regard to the pending Article 78 litigation, brought by Amanda Miller and others, and in Article 78, challenging the Rhinebeck Town Board's adoption of an amendment to the Town of Rhinebeck zoning code with regard to solar energy systems. And whereas the planning board members Michael Trimble, Melody Moore, Woody Dursey, Sharon Sherrod, and Edna Lackman had no prior knowledge of this letter and did not consent to same, and whereas the planning board member Eric Ballome has acknowledged having prior knowledge of Mr. Murray's intent to send the letter, and whereas the members of the planning board have not authorized Mr. Murray to represent them or the planning board in any manner relating to the Article 78 referenced above, and did not vote upon or otherwise authorize Mr. Murray to send this letter to Judge Rosa, now therefore be it resolved that the members of the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board do not support or approve the letter written by Mr. Murray to Justice Rosa, and be it further resolved that the members of the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board authorize Michael Trimble as chairperson and John Lyons as legal counsel to the Planning Board to write to Justice Rosa requesting that the letter from Mr. Murray be rejected and returned to Mr. Murray, and that the court appearance scheduled for January 16, 2018 be canceled. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
Discussion. I'd like to take the last two sections and ask that you change it to resolve that we do not support or approve the letter written by Mr. Murray to Justice Rosa. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You don't support it? Resolve, the second one, that we authorize John Lyons as legal counsel to the planning board to write to Justice Rosa requesting that the letter from Mr. Murray be rejected and returned to Mr. Murray, and that the court appearance scheduled for January 16th be canceled. I don't see anything different. I only ask that we add, in addition to that, a roll call vote.
Oh, there will be a roll call vote.
Okay, so I just want to make sure this isn't passed as a...
No, it will not be. I can assure you it will not be.
I have some questions about that, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Does that then take away our right to ask the judge for information that's not with coming with?
If you do it as an individual, you can certainly do it as an individual.
So it's just the appearance of it perhaps representing the entire planning board that's objected to?
I think that anything that goes out saying members of the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board without signifying which members, what members were there, and I believe you also said in your email you did not sign it.
I did not sign
All
it.
right.
I didn't see it before when
so there were not
I knew
members.
the general idea of that. So
but
this
there
one
were not members. So this basically just says the planning board, by majority vote, did not authorize this, did not even vote on it, did not even know it existed.
Okay.
That's all it's saying.
So it's just saying that this doesn't, that letter is not represent the entire planning board.
Correct. Does not represent the planning board. And at no time did the planning board take any action on any proposal, any resolution.
Okay. But any one of us still has the right to contact the judge if we're not getting any information.
If you feel that's appropriate, yes.
Well, I asked the question, who else would we be the appropriate person to ask if we can't get information from you or from John?
Well, the appropriate person that I asked was the town clerk, because I knew that the action was against the town board, not against the planning board, and the town clerk is responsible for all documentation dealing with town board affairs and any public documents that had to deal with this case.
Well, I asked that question and you never answered that. So.
I believe I did, and I told you that's when
My email, I said, who else would we contact but the judge, and no answer was given to
At that point, you and I had spoken a number of other times, including outside the library, outside the post office, when I tried to explain to you why we were doing what we were doing and why the planning board was not involved. And at that time, you said you were satisfied with the answer. I realize in your email you said on latter thought you thought you were no longer satisfied, but you never contacted me again to say, by the way, I had second thoughts.
That was before tonight's meeting. I expected to have a discussion on that, but this particular letter was discussed after our meeting at the library. In fact, in my email, I mentioned our meeting at the library, at the post office.
Yes, you did.
So I asked you at the end of that email, who else would be appropriate to ask these questions of if we can't get information from you or from John or from, any of the town board members? Who else would we ask for this information? And so now you're saying the town clerk is the proper person to ask.
That's the person I would ask for documents dealing with the town planning
board.
board.
Well, I would have appreciated an answer to that question from that email.
Or town board members themselves, if your questions have to do with the motivation behind the decision.
I asked Chauncey that several times. I got the answer that he could tell me what the public benefit of litigating this was, but he couldn't tell me in public.
You asked me in one conversation, and I told you I wouldn't discuss it.
Two conversations.
Because the matter was in litigation. think was one of the Rotary Luncheon, what was the other one?
The other one was a Rotary
We
Luncheon
had
as
two
well.
at the same time?
No,
Luncheon?
they were separated by several weeks.
Well, I don't recall the second one, I only recall one. In
Okay.
any case, I declined to discuss the litigious matters in litigation, and I will continue to do that, and I do that right now, so don't ask me another question, because I won't discuss it.
So if he can't discuss it, he won't discuss it, you don't answer an email, now you're saying the town clerk is the person to
Well,
go
do
to?
you continue to have questions that haven't been answered tonight?
Well, I disagree with the answers, but other than that, they have been answered, but I don't feel that they're answered satisfactorily.
I understand that.
And Eric, I'd like to say...
I want to make clear that I do stand to be continued to available if you have further questions. I'll do my best to answer them. You may not agree with the answers that I give you, but I'll do my best to answer the questions.
And Eric, I'm not refusing to answer your questions. I don't have the answers. I have not been party to the executive session meetings dealing with the Article 78 because I'm not a member of the town board.
Thank you.
Therefore, I don't have the answers that apparently you're looking for. The only things I know of are the public documents that are now currently in the town clerk's office. That's all I know.
Okay.
And that's all I probably am going to know until after the judge rules, whatever she might decide.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that, I asked that question specifically in my email, who else to ask besides the judge, and I didn't get an answer.
No, you didn't. That's true.
Going down the road in the future, if the planning board is named as a defendant in a lawsuit, I see no reason why we shouldn't have full cooperation. Legal, chairperson, town clerk, everyone. I mean, you're named on a lawsuit. Regardless of your interpretation, you think that we are not proper parties.
Action of the planning board, that's an issue.
But we're not proper parties.
But I understand your point, and I think that, I will endeavor to do a better job of answering your questions.
And it was not by any means malicious. I just felt like I asked the question, and I asked it a few times vocally, and everybody just kind of said, yeah, whatever.
So can we get back to this resolution?
Yes, we can.
No offense, Richard, but I don't really like your suggested changes. I think it's just clearer the way it's written.
What is it that's unclear?
Well, I just think that members of the planning board do not support is clearer than we do not support. It's a very
I said
official.
we do not support?
This is my point of view. I have given it.
I know, I'm just explaining why I said we, because we will be the undersigned. When you say the members of the planning board, it again does exactly what you're accused me of, and again, I'm sorry, but the planning board means everyone.
No, actually, Richard, it doesn't, because we're going to have the roll call vote on this.
There's going to be a roll call, I'm fine with that.
All right. So I'm good, I have a motion and a second for the motion.
And I'm sorry, one other comment. The second change, John is legal counsel. John will send it. There's no need to have Michael and John authorized to write a letter to Maria Rosa. That's why I put that there.
Well, the town board asked me to participate for reasons known to the town board. So.
Okay.
So we have the motion as I read it. It's been moved and seconded. I will hold the board. Eric?
As written, I'm going to have to say no.
Edna?
Aye.
Melody?
Aye.
Richard?
Nay.
Sharon? Aye. And I vote aye. The resolution passes. We will put a letter together and send it off to Judge Rosa. I will also be sending this off to the town board since they were quite concerned about what would transpire tonight. So I have nothing further to discuss on the agenda or any other items for us. This is our last meeting until next year.
2018.
And would you be so kind?
I would like to make a motion to have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
I'll second that. All in favor. Thank you all for a good year. Take care.
Thank you.